Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope everybody's doing good and I hope everybody's New Year's is starting off on the right foot. New Year's for me a lot of times is much like my mornings are for my day. Fun fact, I am not a morning person. But I am a morning person, if that makes sense. And what I mean by that is I get up early a lot of times, but I really don't want to be having a conversation with anybody, to be quite honest. And so I typically am in my own space. I like to have my quiet time and, ease into my day. And that really sets the tone for what my day is going to be like. And then if I just kind of jump out of bed and just go and it's kind of chaotic, that's kind of often how my day ends up. And so I really am very intentional about how I start my day. So speaking of, let's talk about being intentional. This week, we are in the second of a 3-part series where I'm talking about being fit in your purpose, named after my namesake, but this is the topic to start off the new year. And FIT is an acronym: focus, intentional, and teachable. These are all characteristics of what I feel like we have to embody if we want to live a purposeful life. Okay. Now, little back end stuff. I'm on take 5 of this video. I know I've known what I wanted to say, but it just, for some reason, it's not coming together. And here's why. When I was thinking about the topic of being intentional, okay, it's nothing like just, oh my God, that's, it's not like a aha, sort of topic, I think, because I feel like most people, I won't say all, but most people have this level of intentionality in their lives. You have to, in order to be a decently successful person in life. If you have kids, you have to be intentional about getting them up and taking them to school, right? If you have a job, you have to be intentional about getting to work on time. If you have a car, you got to be intentional about putting gas in the car, right? That is for somebody, they know who they are. But in order for any level of just getting through society, okay, there's a level of intentional. So that has to be, implemented. But I kept thinking about it and I'm like, but there's something else there, because if it was that simple, I honestly believe that more people would live a life that is full of purpose, or, attempt to, figure out what their purpose is and live within that purpose. And so I think what is missing when we talk about being intentional is this higher level of intentionality. What does that look like? I think one of the best analogies that I can give is relationships, right? No relationship is going to survive if both people are not intentional about the relationship as a whole, but intentional about their part in the relationship. Meaning, if you ever been in a relationship and it was one-sided, I'm sure all of you are nodding your head, because I'm sure many people have been in that, where you felt like you were doing everything and the other person was, it's kind of like a taker and a receiver. Maybe you were the person doing all the taking, and somebody else was giving it all. However that played out. But basically what was missing was this level of intentionality from the other person, right? Where you didn't feel like they were giving their all in it, right? What sets elite athletes apart from the average person or the average athlete is a higher level of intentionality. We can always take it up a notch. And here is something that I learned that I live by now and that I share so often. I probably shared it on a video, but I feel like it might have gotten buried, and I kind of want it to be at the forefront of this one. To get to this higher level of intentionality, you have to constantly work at being okay at the bottom. Okay, so what do I mean by that? I heard this in a sermon once. I've heard it in a couple different sermons, and I believe it's so true of life, right? Those who I mentor know, because I share it with them often. Think of the numbers 0 through 9, okay? 0 is at the very bottom. 9 is the highest you're going to get, right? Then when you get into the next level, right, you're at 10. Now 10 ends in 0. So essentially you're in the next level, but you're back at the bottom, right? 11, 12, 13, 3, 4, 5, essentially, until you get to 19, where you're at the top of the next level, right? And then boom, you get to the next level. Now you're at 20, but essentially you're back at 0. So you're at the bottom, but you're on the 3rd level now. And what happens so often is so many of us don't like that feeling of being at the bottom of, because it's uncomfortable and it can be confusing and you can feel all out of sorts and you feel like you're not in your element, right? And I think what happens is a lot of times that's where we stop with being intentional, right? We get a bit complacent. We, just kind of, this is okay. This works for me because I don't want to be uncomfortable at that next level. So I brought up relationships, right? How does that play out in relationships, Professor Campbell? How does that even relate to one another? Well, think about it. Think about a relationship where you've, in the beginning of a relationship, it's all wonderful. We often call it the honeymoon stage, right? Because guess what? Both people are usually being very, very, very intentional, right? If I'm using a heterosexual couple as an example, he and she, are both doing everything to make that other person like them or to be impressive to the other person, whatever. Both people are like on the best behavior that they have, right? And then they make it to that 9 level. Now you know a lot about that person in a certain realm, right? Then you get to the next level. And then, you're kind of back at the bottom. Oh man, now I got to figure out what their favorite color is, now I got to figure out how to put that in, into our relationship. Do I buy them something? Do I make them something? Do I, they like this shade of blue, that shade of blue, so you're kind of essentially back at the bottom because you've already learned a decent amount at that level. Now you're at the next level, right? Now you're like, okay, cool. Let me start doing more and more and more and more. And then boom, then all of a sudden you're on the next level, but you're back at the bottom again. Now I got to figure out what, makes them, have a bad day or whatever, right? And then what happens so often in relationships is somewhere along, I'm going to say, 40 or 50 at that level of 0 with those numbers, where we just stopped trying. We were intentional for a while, but we stopped trying to get all the way up to 99, right? In order to live a life full of purpose, you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable, and you have to always work at getting to that next level of intentionality. We're always going to get to a point where we kind of hit a ceiling, right? In all areas, whether that's relationships that I just used an example of, whether that's work, whether that's hobbies. I could use the same analogy for working out, right? Many people know I used to compete in fitness competitions, and it really is like trial and error with your body and trying to figure out how to shape and mold and all this sort of stuff. But once you get to a point, we all know the word plateau, right? Your body will plateau, right? Because it's so used to you doing the same things. In order to get to the next level, guess what? I can't just keep doing this level of intentional. I got to take it up a notch, right? And then this level, guess what? It's uncomfortable. I'm doing exercises that I've never done before. My body is like, what the heck are you doing? Because I've taken it up a notch. I encourage you to really get comfortable being in that space that, you might have to trip through a little bit. Your muscles are going to be a little bit sore. It's not going to feel familiar to you, but taking it up that extra notch of being intentional is what's going to help individuals live their best life and live a purposeful life. Because otherwise we're going to just kind of stay at this basic level of intentional, and then we just kind of end up, in a space that we really don't want to be in. Y'all know that's not what I want for people. I definitely want people to find what their purpose is, live a purposeful life, and then be extra intentional about doing it. So I hope something in there. I know that's kind of a lot in a random, kind of random bunch of ways and put together, but I hope there's something in there that can help somebody. If not, that's okay. We have next week. We're going to talk about being teachable. And if it did help you, I also encourage you to pass it on to somebody, because that's what this channel is about. So have a wonderful week or weekend, and I will see y'all on the next video.